Hey gang, Uncle Todd here, and wow, the fifth episode of Fall of the House of Usher was quite the revelatory one. Now, with 3 sons now three children, having to be buried. Rodrick's illness seems to be getting worse as he's seeing more and more crazy hallucinations. In the flashbacks, Madeline goes to see their boss at Fortunato and tries to talk him into converting all the records over to computers, which he immediately knows is a trap, because he's like, you want me to take all our records up from the basement, put them on a computer so that you can see evidence of the forgeries that Rodrick was complaining about. Nice try. Then he puts the moves on her, which she rejects, and he basically tells her, you want to sleep with me? That's fine. It'll be enjoyable. But you want to mess with me, and you will pay dearly. Of course, this was what Madeline did as a ruse, because then she goes back and tells Rodrick and Dupin, who they're cooperating with. And Dupin says this is good because he's underestimating you. All we need to do now is, because now we know the records we're looking for are more than likely down in the basement, we just have to figure out a way to get them. Ha. Well, meanwhile, Victorine and her girlfriend have a bit of a falling out. Turns out she's found out that she's been scheduled for surgery on a person she's never even met, let alone examined. The product, the new heart replacement, isn't ready. She's not going to put it on a person. And then she realizes Victorine forged her name on the papers so the surgery can go through. Her girlfriend storms out, and Victorine says, "Now remember, you signed a DNA and an anti-disclosure clause." And she goes, "You know what? Screw it. Sue me. I'm going to talk." And she turns around and heads for the door. We flip back to modern the day where Rodrick is telling all these things to Dupin, and we have a startling admission from Dupin. Turns out there was no informer. He made it up to force conflict within the family in the hopes it would shake something loose, or maybe some of them would come forward to make a deal, turn state's evidence. And he feels guilty that he has now caused the death of all 6 of Rodrick's children. But Rodrick says, you don't have to carry that burden. That wasn't why they died. I'm sorry, was I pushing you down? Anyway, Victorine is now calling frantically her now ex. No answer. And she's hearing this weird noise all the time, this kind of noise, and she's like tearing her place apart. Can't find anything. Her office anyways. Cutting over to the hospital. Against doctor's wishes, Frederick is moving his wife to their house, And at first, this seems he just wants to be here. He can afford the best medication and to keep the room sterile, even though the doctor protests. It could be months, years before she's ready for that. Nope. He's got the money. He's going to do it. But it seems to be he's not got the best intentions towards his wife, which will probably play out later in one of the later episodes. Tamerlane is also having a falling out with her husband, who she reveals she only married him because he was the right fit for the Goldbug fitness program that she's created and marketing. And she's also suspecting him of cheating, but damn it, he loves her. He doesn't like the prostitutes. He doesn't want to sleep with prostitutes. He wants to sleep with her. She's not having it. She's unimpressed with him. He's just a pretty face. And he leaves. And she's a little upset that he abandoned her, but as she told him, she can replace him at any time. Moving on to Rodrick and Madeline, Pym has finally found a way to get pictures of Verna, who was a security guard, and he's found evidence of her being associated. There was a picture on Leo's phone of her with the cat, and they managed to find a shot of her without her mask at the nightclub. Well, Rodrick says he doesn't recognize her. Madeline says, "Oh, yes, you do. This is the bartender at that 1980 New Year's Eve." And he goes, "Hey, we weren't supposed to talk about that. Ever." And Madeline goes on with her theory of she looks exactly like that bartender. Exactly. She hasn't even aged. You slept with her, didn't you? You have a proclivity of sleeping with every woman you meet. Who knows how many other illegitimate children you have. This is obviously your daughter, and she's obviously trying to get into the family and knocking out the competition. So, Pym takes this information and he's going to start searching, which Madeline says, the deal you make, because that's what he does, he makes deals, is her eyes. Bring me her eyes. Ugh. Man, she's nasty. Well, Rodrick, in a bit of self-pity, goes down to the basement of Fortunato and starts talking to a brick wall. Could that have something to do with what happened back in 1980? He then makes several attempts to end his life, but doesn't go through with any of them. Calls himself a coward. Goes to see Victorine, who is blasting music at her house, and he asks her to turn it down, and she kind of slightly turns it down, and he wants her to know that he's really grateful that she is going forward with the human testing, and she doesn't know how much he is depending on it. But it's hard to talk, so he asks her to turn the music off, and she does. And then she goes, do you hear that? And he listens, and he hears the and he says, yes. And it's at this point Victorine remembers what she had forgotten or had repressed. When her girlfriend was leaving, she picked up a heavy candle holder and tossed it at her in a rage. and it hit her in the back of the head and split her skull. And she was going to call 911 and then didn't. And just slowly watched her die. And then she took her into a back room, cleaned up where she had fallen, and performed a surgery on her. Rodrick, tracing the sound, opens a door. There's the dead body of Victorine's girlfriend. And her chest is open, and the mechanical heart is moving. That's the noise. But it's not doing anything. Her girlfriend is still dead. It's not reviving her. Though she acts like she's still alive. She has arguments with her. And Rodrick realizes his daughter has lost it. And he's trying to talk to her. And she pulls out a scalpel. The same one she had used to do the operation. And she holds it up to him. And says, "We have to have another test subject." And then stabs herself. And dies in front of him. Wow. What an episode. I mean, they're setting up things for the next two children. I believe Tamerlane is the next episode, and then we get to Frederick before the final episode in which everything gets wrapped up, and we will finally learn just what it was the Ushers did back in 1980. But, wow. Did not see where this was going. I honestly thought, since it was obviously doing the Telltale Heart, that they were going to find her buried under the house, not just sitting in a room with that heart running, not pumping anything. And I'm starting to wonder, is there a cask of Amontillado to what happened to the former head of Fortunato? Did they kill him and then brick him up? Or did they lead him down there and brick him up alive? Even worse. I guess it'll all come out in the next few weeks. Curious to see what will happen to Pym, because I don't think he's going to... he might track down Verna, or she might just appear to him. As she kept appearing to Victorine, who, of course, was the test subject. And again, she had one of those weird kind of knowing conversations with her. But because Victorine is kind of out of it and concentrating on that weird sound she's hearing, she doesn't follow it. Although the gist of what she wants is she wants to meet the surgeon before she'll sign the paperwork okaying the operation, which puts more stress on Victorine because she can't get a hold of him, having repressed the murder. I can't say it's a murder; it was an accident. But, yeah, pretty wild episode. Looking forward to next one, and it's starting to get really sad because this family's just tearing itself apart, even though none of them are actually good people, except for Lenore, the granddaughter, maybe Juno, although she doesn't seem to have any skeletons except her previous drug usage. But we'll have to wait and see. Please hit like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.